Hi, everyone. Good evening.
You can use that or this is good as well.
I have two choices. Very exciting. My name is Esther Terry, and I have had the pleasure of organizing these events, coordinating with a team, the Jewish Education Parent Volunteer Group, ways to commemorate Jewish American Heritage Month. So I'm really excited to introduce our poets tonight. We have Zilka Joseph. First up, she is an artist, poet, educator, and editor. Her work is influenced by Indian and Western cultures and by her Bene Israel roots. She was born in Mumbai, lived in Kolkata, and now lives in Ann Arbor. She teaches creative writing workshops, is a freelance editor and manuscript advisor. For several of her published works, she has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and PEN, Griffin, and National Book Awards. Her sixth book, Sweet Melita, Memories of a Bene Israel Woman, engages with the long history and legends of the Bene Israel Jews of India and food, culture, and childhood memories. She is widely published and has won several honors, including the Elsie Choi Lee Scholarship from the Center for Education of Women, a Zell Fellowship, and the Michael S. Guterman Prize in Poetry from the University of Michigan. I will let Zilka come up now, and just as a note, if you are interested in any of the poems or the publications, they have brought some for sale back there. So after this is over, feel free to go buy one of their books too. All right, thank you.
I think I can use this, yes. Thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much, Esther, for organizing this wonderful event for us, and to Ann Arbor District Library, Matt, who just introduced the event. Thanks so much. And Tyler, who is taking care of the social media and the projection here. Thank you, so many friends in the audience. I'm just so pleased to see you all. Thank you so much. I'm going to read first from my book, Sharp Blue Search of Flame, which was written, published in 2016. And there are a number of poems there that I do like to introduce my work with. And one that I'm very fond of reading is a poem called Bird in a Blizzard. And I do write a lot about nature. I write a lot about food, as you will see in a little bit. And my newest book is about the history of the Bene Israel Jews and my childhood. But Sharp Blue Search of Flame focuses a lot on the death of my mother, loss and in general, and also my own stories of immigration. Bird in a Blizzard. This is when you know you should have stayed home. This is when you know this is not your element. When you know you have been blown way off course, that water changes its face every day, and the faces you love blur in that churning. That the whispers in the thick flood of flakes come from elsewhere. That the ones who gave you shelter are gone. That the cracking of the spine of the frozen river will be the last sound you will hear. And the thump, thump, thump you hear in your head is someone trapped inside your heart. Yes, this is when you know your ancestors are wanderers, singing tunes you never knew you knew. And you remember every word of the song that the wind rips apart and flings. But how quickly your throat fills with snow, and when you turn again, you shiver as if you are wingless, and you can move in only one direction now, deeper. Thank you. And the next poem I'm going to read, there are several poems dedicated to my mother, Ruby Benjamin, in this book. And as a young girl, she was trained to do a kind of Indian classical dance called Bharatnatyam, and some of you are familiar with that. Many of her sisters also were trained in some form, some classical Indian instrument, but she was the dancer. And these are just stories I hear from her, is that when she actually danced on stage, and then when the troupe was supposed to do a lot of traveling, and she was of marriageable age, and of course in those days, people were more strict about things like this, and her father certainly was quite conservative. So she had to give up her dance and her job at the railway and get married to my father. So I kind of imagine her doing this classical dance, this particular one called the Rudra Tandav, which is Lord Shiva's dance of destruction. And of course, I'm imagining this, and I'm imagining a form of anger that perhaps she never had, but I feel that anger for her. The Bharatnatyam dancer. Imagine this. It's Shiva's Rudra Tandav my mother performs, frenzied dance of destruction, her lotus feet scorching the earth with flame. Not the great god's 3 wild locks or river Ganga bursting through matted curls, but her thick black rope of hair whipping the backs of her knees. Her sari pleats open and close, the pallo silken sweep bound in a belt of gold. How thunderous her cold eyes, how pure the gestures of her ever-changing mudras. But where was your fury, O sweet mother? Nataraj, where your protective flame? Did your 3 eyes freeze, unweeping, and deaf your holy ears to her, to the sounds of 100 brass ghungroos thrumming on her ankles? No, 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 you heard her feet, the bells, the beat of lightning feet. You heard her desire, you heard her steps, her dance shatter Mount Kailash. Your home, your God abode, your manly kingdom. You heard the audience roar and knew all along her father's will that he would say to her, no more. The tongue, the tongue, the tongue of every ankle bell ripped out, her heart a tomb, her art, her fame, turned to cinders by you, you jealous, jealous Lord of Dance. Thank you. Feel free to clap. And I'm going to read one more poem from this book. It's a dedication to Jyoti Singh, who was raped on a bus in Delhi and died of fatal injuries. There have been subsequent horrific attacks and rapes of women after this. And this is something that we are trying very hard, women are trying very hard to fight against violence against women. This is a take on the ghazal. It's quite modified, but there are certain sections, certain lines in the poem that are extracts from exactly what the lawyers of the men who did this horrific rape, and they thought they would get off scot-free, and even today it's a travesty what happened. And the poem is called What Burns. Only 20% of girls are good. Hood them and tame them, or it's you they'll burn. What do you want? To be God, man, or beast? Your karma, your goddesses, your crosses burn. You say, smother them small, in wombs or home. No food, books, dowry, and no bra to burn. Will mercy reign on the holy who pray, who say none but devils and rebels burn? Who will remember as we turn to ash? Poet, words are witness, make darkness burn. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to shift into a whole other gear here, reading from my new book, Sweet Malida, Memories of a Bene Israel Woman. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of the Bene Israel before I read some of the poems. So it's easier to recognize some of the terms or the words or the historical references in the book. And as many of you already know, because you are already readers and familiar with the diversity in Jewish culture and Jewish communities across the world. So the Bene Israel, it is said, arrived in India, which was not India then. So we're talking in terms of 175 BCE, when Judea was probably not Judea and India was not India. Of course, we know that all these countries were named much later. But it is believed that there was already trade happening between the Middle East, South Asia and Southeast Asia. But there were also diasporas due to persecution already happening in those regions. And it is believed that this was 175 BCE, perhaps in the reign of the Greek overlord Antiochus Epiphanes. So that's one date that they consider for the shipwreck of two ships on the Konkan, that is the western coast of India. And those people who survived that shipwreck and who were saved by the locals and the villagers there are probably my ancestors. So I kind of try to weave that story into this book. Then, of course, there are other theories proposed by historians. Perhaps they arrived in 70 CE, the Second Temple, the destruction of the Second Temple by the Romans. Another posited theory is that perhaps they came in the 10th century during King Solomon's reign, because he was a very strong, his navy was very strong, and he had a lot of boats and crew that he would send out. And one of the thoughts is that perhaps two of the lost tribes could have come to India around that time. So there are many connections, many theories, but most of the theory that I use and the mythology that I weave into this book is the shipwreck stories, 175 BCE. And I was very fortunate this trip to India last year and early this year, that I managed to actually visit two of the places, Alibag, the place where the shipwreck happened and the bodies were supposed to have been washed ashore, where they landed, and Naugao, which is where this ancient cemetery exists. And whenever I think of cemetery, you think they're going to be like concrete slabs and things, but we're talking about, such a long time ago. And all there are these circles of rocks. And it was very moving, because not only were there these circles of rocks, but there were small circles of rocks and smaller circles that made me realize there were women and children. And definitely these were people who were running away with their families to find safe haven. And many of you may also know that the Jews, particularly the Bene Israel, grew and lived among these villagers. And in India, we are not persecuted. We're very much part of the fabric of India. So having given you a little bit of that, I will start with a poem called The Angels of Konkan, where again I sort of reimagine what it must have been like for these survivors. And one more word you might find me using is Shanwar Teli, which means Saturday oilmen, because they observed the Shabbat and they did not work on the Shabbat, so they were called Saturday oil. And most of them were oil pressers, which made people believe that perhaps they already knew that trade from where they came. The Angels of Konkan. Naugao, Maharashtra is where it is believed the ancestors of the Bene Israel were shipwrecked and where a ruined cemetery exists today. From tumbled sands and shattered bark, blurred shadows dragged us. Where were we? They dried our battered bodies, bound our wounds, clothed us in woven cotton, fed us warm food that we could not name then with their hands. And as Elijah ate of bread and flesh the ravens gave him, so also we ate and drank of the cool water brought from brooks. Who were these healers? Then, in fields of grass near the sea, we buried our dead, the ones we found. Where are they now? Set gravestones to remember. They let us pray as we wished, and giving thanks to Adonai, learn the craft of oil pressers. Or did our tribe know it already? Ate what our laws permitted, and praising this vast green land, its rich soil, its rivers, its carts, its grains, its fish and fowl, we blessed the hearts and the living hands of the villagers who saved us. The next poem I'm going to read is the title poem. Malida is the rice dish. It's flattened rice. And when I read the poem, you'll see how simple it is to make, and I hope you'll try it at home. So we have the dish that is called malida, and you'll find the Parsis, Muslims, and other communities have a version of this. So obviously there's a lot of influence of the regional food on Bene Israeli food. And then we have something called the Malida ceremony, which is a Thanksgiving service to Prophet Elijah. Prophet Elijah is very special to the Bene Israel. Some believe that he was the one who saved them. And then there is this wonderful another town in the same area, close to Alibag and Naugao, which is called Elijah's Rock, which has a split in the middle and a horseshoe, so somewhat of a rounded horseshoe print. And they believe that his chariot, on his way, being taken away, ascending to the heavens, actually stopped by and landed on that rock, and therefore there's that crack. So people go there for pilgrimage. And I, too, was very, very fortunate to visit it for the first time early this year. So it was quite an experience. So I'm not going to read the Eliyahu Hanabi service prayer, but I just want you to see what the dish is like. Sweet Malida, a mix of water-softened, flattened rice, sugar, dried fruits, and nuts, was a dish made for Shabbat or for breaking our fast. Cooling, light on the palate and to the body and the spirit, it was welcome in the heat of day or night. We had many foods in common with our Muslim, Christian, and Hindu neighbors, and we often celebrated together their festivals or ours. I relished particularly fresh coconut, the regional staple, its milk or its flesh added to almost every dish. But this was to me the best way to eat it, finely grated by my mother's hands, left unsweetened and sprinkled haphazardly on the malida. Juicy threads with a fleck of stubborn brown kernel here and there that sometimes crunched in your teeth like sand, and you winced and swallowed it, knowing there was no simpler or purer or truer form than that. Thank you. I'm going to read one more poem which reflects some of the history of the Bene Israel and their connection to the Cochin Jews. Many of you may have traveled to Cochin or heard about the Perdesi synagogue in Cochin. These came from the diaspora from Spain and Portugal, particularly also those who settled in Goa and then after the Inquisition had to leave, and they were given haven in Kerala. But when they got to hear about the Bene Israel, and the Bene Israel were not discovered till about the 16th century by missionaries who were in the villages, and they realized that they had these Judaic tenets that they were following. And when word got out, the Cochin Jews were very interested, and the very prominent nobleman called David Rahabi traveled from the Kerala coast up north to the Konkan coast, south of Bombay, to find out who these people were. And then history changed there. So I'm going to just read this a poem. There's also some nonfiction pieces in this book, so it's sort of a hybrid form. And this one has a little bit of prose and poetry, and it's called Not One Fish. David Rahabi is a central figure in many stories, including one saying that he came in 1000 CE. He may actually have been David Ezekiel Rahabi, 1694, 1772. So there is knowledge of a David Rahabi, a mythical David Rahabi who came. And then when you look up history, there is actually a David Rahabi. The dates are a little different, but somehow he has found himself woven into the history of the Bene Israel. And he was the one that began the revival of Judaism among the Bene Israel, because they remembered very little. They had 4 or 5 things that they remembered and followed, including the kashrut laws. So that's what this poem is about. So David Rahabi of Malabar traveled north up the west coast and encountered the Shanwar Telis, who had taken the names of the villages for their own. He wondered at the oil pressers and farmers who made a living by other rural professions, these women and men who had lived as a caste among the locals. So long unknown, this mysterious community, so apart from the urban world, they did not call themselves Jews, nor did they know the word. But he was impressed by the ancient rituals they practiced, the powerful prayer they remembered and used for all occasions, the Shema Israel, which had kept them together. As legend goes, he asked the women to prepare a feast for him from the bounty of the Arabian Sea. Would they pick crab and shrimp, mussel, clam, or bottom feeders? No, not one fish. Not one fish without fins and scales had they chosen. Not one fish without fins or scales was served. They brought him white-fleshed fish like paplet and oily fish like bangra and tarli, fresh and flavorful, salty as the waters that brought the Ben Israel hence from the land of Solomon and David. He knew then they kept kosher, a word they did not recall, just kept a simple faith in the God of Abraham. And then the whole history changes because he brings scholars from Cochin up to the Konkan area and takes some people from there to Cochin, and then they begin their study of the Torah, etc. So that's why that juncture in history is so very important. Let me just look at my time. My time is actually almost up, so I'm just going to end then. I have a lot of food poems in this book that I was hoping to read, but since I do have to talk about the history, I'm going to end with a part of the long poem in the book that goes down the center of the book, sort of being like the backbone, and it's called Leaf Boat. And this is covers history and time and geographical spaces, temporal spaces, and then the history of my ancestors as well. A little bit of history of my own grandparents. My grandfather was a doctor who worked was in the British Army, and he was sent to Egypt and Palestine during World War I. So there are many stories woven into this. In the Sundarbans, the sun is sinking, mangrove roots like ribs, fields and fields of fiddler crabs. Fishermen light kerosene torches on the deck, lock themselves below. The boat rocks and tilts, the hurricane lantern shakes, tiger claws break through wood. The widow's village is full. Where are the fishermen, the honey-gatherer husbands? I shall fear no evil in this valley of tides. We walk through the shadow of the unknown world. My third eye is the unsleeping captain of the dark. Draw the curtain, it is time, it is time. One little mouse did not escape, though it tried. Prepare for landing. Sometimes mice can turn into birds. In New York, his ship pulled out, Dad said. Above the roar of the engines, they shouted to him, a girl child. west to east the planet turns. I was born Thursday in monsoon rain, nighttime, East Coast time. In Bombay, a baby opens her eyes. Throw blades of grass to the wind. Which direction does it blow? Do not move, do not leave your seats till the seatbelt sign goes off. So young, my parents, feeding pigeons in Trafalgar Square, how they sailed the world. Solomon, my father, king of the engine room, king of the house, king of our destiny. Sweet mother Ruby, loving and mild, so more precious to me than jewels. Their daughter prepares to leave. Next year in Jerusalem, Granny prayed, and safe return, dear husband, from Egypt's trenches. Soldiers fall around him. Some of her letters survive, but the photos from Palestine are gone. Multifoliate lotuses open to the sun. In Bombay, how many Shemas did she say? Come back, Aaron, from Britain's war. His limbs collapse with some disease. Just 36 when his father and uncle say Kaddish for him. Young Hannah in a white sari at his side. Oh, Hannah of Brandra, mother of 3 small sons, and your 5-year-old daughter dead in her grave. Hannah alone, selling all your gold, your journey just beginning. In my dream, the whales are singing. Check the dorsal. This is how we identify migrants. In ancient times, my ancestors sailed east, it is said. West to east they sailed, west to east. Safe journey to the other side. 2 ships wrecked on the Konkan coast. What star, what moon saved them? Who drowned in salt? Who breathed the sand? Who flailed, who fell, who flew, who swam, who dived? Whose eyes turned to pearls? Who sang to the angels of the deep? Who lived to ask the whales the story of how they were swept to shore? In my dream, the whales are singing. Check the dorsal. This is how we identify migrants. My ancestors once a village on the Konkan coast. The third eye is the unsleeping captain of the dark. Look up. Did David's star keep them alive? Shabbat lights flicker in villages. The anchor is lifting. Oh, where to now? I am so tired. I am so tired. See, the stars are forming strange new words. A map, a compass, and you beside me. My body a leaf boat, lamp floated on water. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Zilka, for sharing that. It's powerful. The other thing I wanted to note before introducing Isaac is part of how I am able to actually learn about these poets and meet them is actually through the network, which is for Jewish people of color in Ann Arbor and the greater Washtenaw area. The founder is here tonight, Deborah Green. So afterwards, after the questions and answers, if you have questions for her, she, I think, would be happy to talk. And of course, our poets will still be here too. And their books are in the back when Isaac's done. Okay. So Isaac Pickell is a Black and Jewish poet, a PhD candidate, an educator and adjunct instructor in Detroit, a Kaveh Khanem Fellow. Isaac is a graduate of Miami University's MFA program. He is the author of 2 collections of poetry, Everything Safe Will Be Last, Black Lawrence Press 2021, and It's Not Over Once You Figure It Out, Black Ocean 2023. His most recent work has been featured in Cincinnati Review, Copper Nickel, Denver Quarterly, Diode Poetry Journal, and Poetry Northwest. Isaac has taken a seat in all 50 states and has so much to look forward to. This is Isaac.
I'm actually good. They give us these fancy little water bottles. You've got I'm going to put flowers in mine. Isn't it pretty? We're going to have that ready. I just got a picture taken of me drinking water, which is what everyone wants. Okay, hi, everybody. Zilka, thank you so much. The stories you tell are so engaging and engrossing, and they're so much bigger than even you can make room for, but you make so much room for them anyways, and it's really wonderful. I always appreciate hearing you read and reading your work. Thank you, Esther, for putting this together, and the library for having us. I'm gonna read, hopefully, about 20 minutes worth of poems. I timed it at home, but I never know how fast I'm gonna read in person, so we'll see. They discuss race. I'm mixed. My mom is half black, so I am just barely holding on. And then I'm also Jewish because, well, you see it up there. And these poems have a lot to do with identity in the first half, politics, and then we sort of get into the nitty-gritty of the situation in the Middle East, which I'm always just barely brave enough to read about, but I still do it every time, because I think it's the most, even with the president we have, it's still the most relevant tragedy in the world. But I'm going to start and end with poems I wrote yesterday. I always write new poems for readings, because it's more exciting than reading poems that I've already read before. So the first and last poem were written yesterday afternoon. They're fun. The first one here is about Passover 2019, which is a long time ago, a different world. It's called Let Sweet Poems Be Sweet and Bitter Be Bitter. 1 year for Passover, we plated the world, a great diaspora of dishes, Morocco, Brazil, Ethiopia, Yemen. We savored dates, we pampered chocolate, made like our faith, remained a project of indulgence, connection, and peace. This was before the war, which means it was right in the middle of the war. Your parents weren't invited, afraid of any tradition that predated their memory. Our table teemed with unwhiteness, a bitter reminder their skin came late to Judaism. Into the night, we drank with lust from every cup. The earth is small enough to be held if you don't fear it, a tongue open to change, the simplest truth. We too are paler than the ancients, washed out with nowhere to go. That night, we tried to recognize all the shades left behind since firstborns and locusts. In bed, we held each other like one day we might make another light child who knew their color wasn't the climax, wasn't the only story to be told. That night, I touched your back and everything we could still become. All right, I guess we're going here now. Anyone know the poet Chen Chen? There you go. Chen Chen is fantastic, a little goofy, but in the best sort of way. Anyways, this is a poem modeled after one of his poems and also modeled after someone else who I'll mention in a moment. It's called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be a List of Further Possibilities, after Chen Chen and Luigi Mangione. Sorry. If you don't know who that is, like, you know. When I grow up, I want to be a list of further possibilities. To be a good reason for my father's disappointment. To be more than words or a page. To be the years for people who don't have them. To be margins for the trapped, windows for the imprisoned. To be monopoly money, bright and worthless like all money. To be healing that doesn't come with a bill attached. To be led with a purpose. To be the shooter who is never found. To be the son refusing to apologize for going around and around and around again. To be the colors you forget when all you've got is the wheel. Dying to be America like America already is. All right, you may have heard that people like me are suddenly in massive amounts of debt that we have to pay back because student loans are no longer negotiable. So this is a poem about that. It's one of 3 poems that I wrote last week about crows. So welcome to my crow world. You guys like crows? Raven fans? Yeah, crazy about crows? Well, you get a lot of them. This first one is called Crow Letter, Demand for Repayment. And you'll see what it's about. My life goes default in 66 days. I took out my first student loan back in 2004 like the future was a spited bird who'd fly away for good, but coal, black eyes, and a tattered grudge just blink, then cut through decades of fog, their sable wingtips wounding the cool mist with arced echoes of this morning was always going to come. Did you know crows blink while still seeing? Did you know the translucent, milky third eyelid only makes them seem like ghosts? Like private loan officers supervise automated systems, witnessing our broken will. The cruel transparency of what are you going to do about it attached to every email thread. Do you think they sleep and see like a crow, swim like a shark? What can I do but run while they ruin my credit and garnish my wages, and I talk about the mist like I couldn't see, like I didn't know whose malice I was borrowing? We like to name crows carrion birds, but those coal eyes sometimes find live prey. We are not dead yet, but what good is breath trapped in a beak? A forest swamped by crows won't starve, but it does turn to night. Wing beats echo. Listen. Learn the patterns. Don't let death curl in your cot just because it feels like you're dying. Breathe. Don't give them a dime. This one is kind of making fun of another poet, which is not in great taste. But they're very famous and successful, so it's okay. It's called Good Bones. You may have heard of the original. It's a great poem. It's a great poem. This one's called Good Bones. It's about crows again. Good bones. Indigenous peoples call them wolf birds and carcass cleaners. Ravens will flock to dying game, alerting the predators to easy kills. In return, wolf teeth rupture stiff hides so black beaks can chip away what's left, pick the fallen bodies clean. In the wild, in the end, there's little left to return to the earth. Even now, you see them gathering among us, waiting for our sky to turn night. Even now, they are picking, as bones, good bones, they expect we'll keep paying rent. You could make this place beautiful, for there are always more crows to feed. They expect we'll never break. Life is short. When I run out of mourning, what's left to do but die? If I run out of death, what's left but telling everyone to live? What else can the dead even say? Can the dead say they gather, they gather, they gather, they gather, they gather, they gather? I don't think this one will translate out loud. Well, no, but it's about, okay, we're gonna do it. The Sky Over Berlin after Wim Wenders, she's a movie director. It's another one about, thank you. Last one.
Is the Crow trilogy?
Yes. A sad bargain, our lot of dampened desires, unfolding disappointment like destiny can take wing, even as we know destiny isn't real. None of this is fate, but it is a decision, the ominous pomp of a cruelty designed to blight horizon like so many crows calling themselves angels. We have seen this before, how shadows make a dark cluttered blue. A great flock rises to blot out a future for those who still believe in one. People keep saying this is like Germany 1933, but every analogy fails. The skies go red even as they would shade us in black and white. Nothing is ever so simple. But still, a twinged memory of yellow stars, now stitched to new breasts. Wings plummet. We slander crows to call them angels. All right, this one's called Tired. It's after Langston Hughes. You guys have heard of him. Tired. A century later, are we still expecting a good world just over the next hill? Let us take a chainsaw and cut the world in two, and listen for what's crushed by our falling branches. Roll ruin in the smell of wrecked vines. I am so tired of waiting. Aren't you? Okay. We are going to skip this one for time's sake. It basically says that I'm black and Jewish and I'm sad about genocide. I guess that's not funny. It's serious, but we're Russian. We're going to start here. This is called The Land and Other Promises We've Yet to Break. Some things are simple, but the holy books make complicated into an art. You could call them thorny, even. They say one thing, they say another, but when they are precise, it's easy to wish they weren't. Slavery, misogyny, the wanton destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The first 5 books are also clear about land, promised in perpetuity to the chosen people, that's us, from river to sea, more or less. Given the last few thousand years, you could say that pledge grew thorns. Nations in, nations out, everyone sure of their covenant. Now, a new people calls the land home, and so it is home, chosen by circumstance, tradition, and generations. A land and its people. But now the side with bigger guns wants it all. I don't know if I'll ever understand the books, but some things can't be called complex. If you demand everything, you're set for nothing but disappointment, and those who gather thorns will carry their sting to the end. I think I read this one the last time a few of you were here, so. Yep. 7:21 already. Okay, this next one is after Noor Hindi, who's a local poet, but also of some note. She's Palestinian, and she writes a lot about the conflict. And this poem is after her poem, Fuck Your Lecture on Craft, My People Are Dying. My version is called Fuck My Lecture on Craft, Your People Are Dying. And it's after Noor Hindi. I write about flowers. I tell you about blossoms under tank treads because I feel that part of the world needs more beauty. I know nothing about children becoming anything, let alone daisies, but I won't stop picking, placing them gently between the stanza breaks. I read news articles. They speak to me about the moon. I can't stop being haunted by metaphors I didn't find for myself. They're so beautiful, the metaphors. It's so beautiful, my dread. All my strategies for making the brutal tender end in disappointment. I seek the outer perimeter of horror to bind, fix, and wither my anxieties while you wait on death. Not your own, but death. Someone will tell me this poem is lovely and they will not know its cost. When I die, I'll keep writing about flowers. I don't know what else to offer you. All right, the end of history. This is a short one. Eventually, the West will run out of other people's agony, other people having digested every torture and spat it back out, and will bow to reality, wind-grown like bent trees alongside a sea. All right. So when the ceasefire happened back in January, when it was announced and then when it eventually came, I wrote a flurry of poems. I wrote a poem a day for like a week. And I'm going to read you guys a couple, one from the day the ceasefire went active on January 19th, and one from 2 days later, the first time I was in the classroom after the ceasefire. I teach college at Detroit Mercy. English, college English, not like biology. That'd be weird. Okay, so this first one is not said that it's after Allen Ginsberg because Lord knows it's nothing like his poem, but it is called Holy, 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 or Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. It's from January 19th, 2025. Jews are close readers. The Torah has a couple mentions that we must follow God's laws and shall live by them, and shall live by them. From that, Talmudic scholars inferred and also not die by them, thus provoking an edict that the preservation of human life overrides any other halakha. Jewish law is inapplicable in cases of critical danger to family, stranger, or oneself. It's called pikuach nefesh, or saving a soul, and the scholars are not too ambiguous about it, which is funny since carpet bombing residential neighborhoods in the name of the Lord also lacks a certain ambiguity. The conservative estimates say 46,000 souls lost in Gaza, but politicians have dragged their feet for months as if the definition of life worth saving was debatable. But lo, a breakthrough, a ceasefire, and there were tears in the streets and flags that waved as bombs kept falling on Gaza. You see, this is holy because after much hand-wringing, they met on the Sabbath, the day of rest, as if a God might forgive them for apartheid, ethnic cleansing, or genocide, but his mercy was dubious when it came to the calendar. So now there is peace, peace, and flags wave in the streets. Now peace, peace, for at least 6 weeks. Jews, we are close readers. We know exactly what that means. Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Then this is called Everything from the World from my first day in class. In the reverb of this brief respite, will my country attempt to forget your name, Gaza, host to siege and starvation, body robbed and bombed and killed right down to its earth? You took everything from the world and stood, but there is so much yet to be done. But today, every dim word has already been spoken. Some days are made for joy. The grin consuming my Palestinian student as she declares, we have achieved ceasefire. She says she can taste the last day of occupation, the first day of peace. She knows it will be in her lifetime. She knows it is already written. There will be a time for after, but now she deserves to celebrate. She deserves everything from the world. All right, I was going to end those poems there, but it seems silly because the ceasefire didn't last and people are dying. Okay, all right, sure. This one is written a couple weeks ago. It's after Fatima Hasuna, who, as you'll hear in a second, was a journalist who was killed. And this is about the failure of ceasefire. It's called A Figure That Won't Be True Tomorrow, after Fatima Hasuna. The weekend headlines say, Israeli strikes kill more than 94 people in 48 hours. And at least they stopped using the passive tense for this violent simmer status quo. But lately, It's like my brain stopped absorbing the rising numbers, stuck on the shape 46,000. Like that estimate ever meant anything but so far. Remember when? Ceasefire? Ceasefire. How we almost trusted the tally to quit like it hasn't been growing for 70-some years. It keeps ticking, one by one. A photojournalist demands a resounding death. Quote, a death the world will hear that neither time nor space buries. Israeli strikes kill her alongside 10 members of her family. My brain just fizzes, takes the shape 46,011. Like numbers could tell the truth about a life. Sometimes the news says something like 51,157, and I try to picture being a part of what remains unfathomable. I worry someday soon they'll just stop counting. You tell me I must be loud while I still can. Tell me how loud I can be. Tell me why I can't even title this poem yet. All right, we have 3 shorties and then I'm done, I promise. I really do get going. I do not need this microphone. Oh, there's a live stream? I didn't know that. I could have told all my friends. The live stream. Is it going to be on YouTube later? Yes. But like forever? Awesome. I want to show. Okay, I'm going. I'm so slow. I have ADHD and it's not treated. Okay. This one is called Direct and Unavoidable Consequences. People do not like living in cages and will do anything they can to break free. Sometimes this will not be pretty, and other times it will be so beautiful that you weep. The direct and unavoidable consequence of putting people in cages is they will grow flowers, no matter how many times you cut them down. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? That's a good one. All right, we got happy poems to finish. Just one, actually. You tried. You think we all deserve a much softer world, folding in on itself. You almost forget people are dying and bend yourself into poetry, the future. You tried, but your trying has grown too small to even allude to. You just want to write a poem about a softer world. You just need a breath. You think maybe we all do. And finally, this one is written yesterday. It's called Tilted Towards the Sun. Tilted Toward the Sun. I don't know towards or toward. I've never figured it out. Tilted Toward the Sun. In the glare of May, between the pale cloud, sapphire skies, and the rainbow blooms, you try telling me what this weather does to your mood, but you can't find the words to match the bright, bright rays. You've been the wrong kind of blue for so long, a pale prism. Now, a dandelion grin opens to the smallest hint of sunshine. I'm glad things are turning, if only the planet, if only. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. Let's have one more round of applause for both of our poets here tonight. All right, we had some wonderful readings. We are running a little short on time, but we do have time if anyone's got just a really burning question. We've got time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. And if not, that's okay as well. So just raise your hand.
I feel weird having to turn something.
If not, that's all right. If you, yes, please.
Zilka, thank you. Everyone, thank you for coming. Please buy our books. Poets don't make any money on anything. It's not even about the money. It's about like getting people to read our shit. It feels so nice. We get a random email being like, I read your book and it meant something to me, but you can't do that without the book in the first place. So please buy our books, support your local poets. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
And I just wanted to give a thank you to the Ann Arbor District Library for hosting and coordinating and helping you. Very, very awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.